It's like you're having a nightmare and you want to wake yourself up from it, or even a pleasant dream. And you have this sense that it's not real and you want to wake up from it. The dreamer is one thing. The one that wakes up is another thing. The dreamer doesn't wake up in a certain sense. It's like there's two of you. There's the dream self, and then there's the person you are when you wake up. And those are different. So when you're dreaming, the question could arise, who is it that's dreaming? Is it the person in the bed who's dreaming? Yeah. At the same time, the projected world, the projected body, the projected character, mind, body, emotions, the person that's being projected in the dream, it's not real and it's not who you are. It exists, but it exists dependently, and mainly it exists dependent on a certain state of awareness that we're calling dreaming that's projected from the waking person. So when that person wakes up, the entire dream and the dreamer and all that disappears, and there's just the waking state. To use that analogy, if you've ever woken yourself up from a dream, there's this intuition, oh wait, none of this is real. That doesn't come from the dream. That comes from the waking reality. It's like light coming in through the window, like, oh, there's another world, and that's beckoning to me. And there's a sense of self that's a dreamer. But that's not who you are. That's just a figment. Because when you wake up, you're like, oh, none of that was real. So from the waking state, typical, ordinary, worldly consciousness, there's a sense that that isn't real. Or we're suffering to a high degree and we're like, there must be a solution, or we've heard about God, or we've heard about some seemingly supernatural help that will deliver us from the suffering of what we're calling waking consciousness. The intuition comes from beyond that state. And in a sense, the awakened, when you are in your essence, in your true nature, you're already free. That intuition comes from that dimension. And there's a certain logic of the waking world that says there must be something in this waking world that will deliver me, or that the answers are something of this world. And then there's an intuition that it must transcend this world. The key is to distinguish clearly between those two, because the ego is basically clinging to the things of the world. That's just almost like a reflex. It clutches. I wouldn't call it spasmodic exactly, but when it doesn't know what to do, it gets scared and it grabs to the root of the tree that we would call delusion, which has to do with thinking that the waking world is real. There's three states that we experience, basically. There's waking, dreaming, and deep dreamless sleep. When I say waking, what I mean is conventional reality as it's conventionally understood. We think, oh, I'm awake. You're not in bed dreaming that you're being chased by a monster or something. Now, compared to the spiritually awakened condition, it's akin to a state of sleep or dreaming. So when I say waking world, I don't mean being spiritually awake. So conventional reality, there's a certain logic, a certain way of thinking, a certain way of understanding, a certain way of functioning, seeking. So when it is said by sages, teachers who have woken up and are trying to transmit the teaching, which is hard to do because it can't really be exactly spoken. We can only have pointers, right? One of those pointers is there's nothing to do, meaning in the spiritual quest, when one is confronted with existential dread, or you've been practicing a long time and you've reached a plateau, or you're trying to break through into the awakened condition fully. You've had glimpses maybe, but you want to wake up and you're not there yet, or at least that's your experience. There's this pointer of there's nothing to do, or even there's no one to do it. There's no doer. That's true in a certain sense and false in another sense, depending on how it's taken. There's nothing to do means in the conventionally experienced world of conventionally experienced worldly things, there's nothing to do because those answers won't suffice. Deep inside, there's something that tells us who we are and tells us in some sense what to do. There is a kind of guidance that is accurate, clear, and important, that is transmitted through awakened teachers or through awakened consciousness to the degree that one can receive it, that is basically a form of do X. Do X. X would be whatever it is it's guiding you to do. It could be anything. It could be anything. When I say anything, I mean anything. Brush your teeth. Wash the dishes. Whatever. The logic of that is not the logic of the world. It is not the logic of conventionally experienced reality with its conventional objects, conventional thinking, conventional strategies for fulfillment. It is not that. So there's two different kinds of logic going on here. The guidance that there's nothing to do means there's nothing in that worldly logic that's going to help you. So don't listen to it. It's going to prattle in your head. Ignore it or witness it like it's part of your meditation. Notice that it's struggling and needy and looking for, it's like it wants a pacifier because it's in pain and it just wants something to soothe it, even if it's something that's not going to break the back of its egoic nonsense. It's delusion. It really is kind of like someone who is addicted to heroin or some other cocaine or whatever. Heroin's a good example because it kind of soothes you. It doesn't cure your pain. It just makes you so you don't care. I've never done it. But my understanding is opiates don't take your pain away as much as they put you in a state where you don't care. Like you still hurt, but it doesn't matter. You're just sort of oblivious. You're just kind of cast adrift. And then when the effects wear off, you're back to square one and it hurts again and it's probably worse and you need more. Those answers will not help you. So you need to lean on your study, the texts that you've studied in those meditations, your understanding, whatever light you've received, and slap yourself, not literally, shock yourself. The stage you're talking about is a more advanced stage where you've received a lot of teachings and you practiced a bit enough that the awareness is there. It's just there's a perception of not having broken through yet because the awakened condition is such that it's obvious, and then all that goes away and you're like, oh, I mean, there's just nothing left after that. So you're talking about breaking through that, or how to deal with the state of feeling stuck and not being able to break through into that. You know, when I say there's a world logic, a conventional logic that gives you conventional answers based on conventional understanding, you know what that is, and you know it's different from the clear light of wisdom that guides you to do stuff that's really going to help you. What you have to do is use the light that you've attained, the wisdom at the stage you're talking about. You have attained a certain degree of wisdom and understanding based on your studies. You've attained it, or you wouldn't be having this particular experience, this conundrum. So you're responsible for bringing yourself to that level, and then it kind of pushing forward. It's just, you know, enough that you can't listen to that poison tree anymore. You got to listen to the true light of wisdom that's available to you. And chances are it may translate into some kind of action. It's like a practice or something. It could. So in that sense, it's not really true to say there's nothing to do. Sure, there's something to do. It's just not part of the conventional logic. It's like you're dreaming. You're at a cafe somewhere and you're in the dream. You're literally dreaming this. You're at a cafe and someone says, just have some cheesecake, you'll be fine. Like some grubby associate that's in the dream. And it's like, you kind of know that's not it. Or like, smoke a cigar, you'll feel better. No. You know, there's certain things in that dream world that are like, yeah, I've been there, I've done that. And that's not it. It's not the same as a figure that represents wisdom. I guess it could be an animal or something in an actual dream. It could be anything. It could be a songbird. It could be a rainbow. But maybe it's a bearded and robed sage or something. In the dream, you notice there's something different about this person. And the thing is, what person? It's all you. The entire dream is being mentally projected from your own mind into a dream space. And the sage that appears is none other than you. Right? And anyway, there's a quality to that guidance that says, maybe you're at the cafe and he comes up to your table and says, come with me. It's like you have to stand up and go like maybe you go to a mountain somewhere and something happens or whatever that is, but you're listening differently. It's the idea. Like, yeah, I really want to wake up. I have this, like, yeah, I think I'm in bed dreaming. And you listen to that one. Why? Because it's different. How do you know it's different? Because you've reached the ability, you've attained the ability based on whatever that is, efforts or study or whatever it is, to discern that. You don't want to go back to sleep. You want to wake up. It's similar compared to the capital A awakened state, liberated state, moksha. You're basically dreaming relative to that. So there's that whole logic of the world and going back to sleep. And there's I don't even know if I'd call it logic. It's like pure wisdom, pure light, pure essence. And you feel it, you hear it, you intuitively grasp in some way that's not any kind of mental grasping. It's like hearing a note in a song that you once knew, or you're like, oh, that's that. Like capital T, that. And your intellectual mind, your grasping mind, your worldly mind will not get it, and it'll second guess you. Because when I say that you recognize it intuitively, it's like, that's what I need. You get up and follow the sage. But it could be a new teacher you've heard about, could be a new book, it could be a video, it could be a retreat. It could be a lot of things. It could be a new practice, or it could be some kind of pilgrimage. It's like Luke Skywalker meeting Obi-Wan Kenobi, and it's like, we're going to destroy the fucking Death Star here. We're not fucking around. And in the final analysis, Obi-Wan appearing as disembodied because he had transitioned and I guess transferred his powers to Luke. He says, use the Force, Luke. Get rid of your little computer thing that he's got, his little viewfinder, because it's not working. It's not going to do it. The worldly answers won't suffice. Use the Force. He uses the Force, destroys the Death Star. So it's like that. I would use the word faith. It's just that most people think of faith as some worldly belief or something. Faith is really kind of like a lightsaber in the dark. You cut your way through. It's just different. It's not worldly. If you have the capability to meet with a true teacher, all it's going to do is give you feedback. There may be certain ones that you can have a private session with And I don't know of many. So when I say all pilgrimages are rewarded, it's like, just fucking do something, dude. And I'm not telling you to do that. I'm putting it out there like you're in the dream and there's this little baby dragon that's smoking a cigarette with sunglasses on. Instead of hair, he has flames. He's like, just do something, dude. If you discern that a teacher is true beyond whatever doubt you may have had about it, and you've done your work and you trust that, yeah, why not? I'm not telling you to do anything either. You're after the truth, not a person. So all pilgrimages are rewarded. It's good feedback. There's the worldly tree and there's truth itself, the wisdom that comes from that. They're different. You know the difference. So listen for guidance from truth. And that kind of guidance will be directive, meaning it won't coddle you, it won't soothe your ego. It never does that. It says brush your teeth, or if you're stuck, I mean, I think this notion of there's nothing to do, it doesn't mean don't do anything. It doesn't mean don't act. It means the worldly tree of logic, it's toxic. From the point of view of the awakened consciousness, it is kind of like the movie The Matrix. There are things you can do in the Matrix that are just Matrix things, and there's things that'll get you out of there. And part of it is this intuition and kind of a drive that comes from that won't leave you alone, that says this shit isn't real and I need to get out of here. I don't even know why. Because the why is always some reason that the Matrix gives you for being a slave. That's your mind. If you noticed in that movie, there are a few things they do that are pretty good. If you're paying attention, it's like, come with us. Or initially, they send him a phone, a cell phone of a certain kind. They say, go out on the ledge and climb up this scaffolding. And he gets scared and he goes back, and it sets him back briefly. After that, he gets away from those agents, and they came back. They came back and they're like, come with us, get in the car. They call him Copper Top, right? Because they know that he's just a battery. He hasn't gotten there yet. But they know that he's on the verge and that he's ready, and they like, let's do this. And Morpheus tells him to do it or whatever. He represents whatever sage advice they've got, and they're like going to trust him, right? So he gets in the car and they have to remove that tracking device, and it's kind of painful and kind of gross. But they don't say pretty please with sugar on top. They say get in the fucking car or we're leaving you. I think Trinity even says to him, he hesitates and she says, you've been down that road and you know where it goes. I forget her exact words, but it's something like that. You've been down that road, you know where it goes. In other words, the road of worldly logic and mental slavery, physical even in that world, all of it. You're done. You know where it goes. Come with us. And then the mind would come in and be like, yeah, but, why, what? I need to figure this out before I take a step in faith. Faith being beyond the mind. You don't know why. You know, but you don't know how you know or why or any of it. You just do it. And it's a pure action. It's directive. Get in the car. Come with us. It's like in the dream, I said, it's like a sage. You're sitting at the cafe, says, come with me. He doesn't flatter you. He doesn't wheedle or cajole or any of that. He just says, come with me. You hear it and you have a choice, And if you're sincere, you'll say, all right, let's go. But don't confuse that with the guidance that you sometimes hear, there's nothing to do. That is more about, there's nothing worldly to do. Or in this moment, you're just being aware of thoughts, feelings, and sensations. You're meditating, you're in practice. It's like they're saying there's nothing else to do. It's not a worldly activity. When it comes down to it, you're liberating your mind. And as the world goes, that's not, quote, doing anything. That's why people, if you know some people who are deeply mired in this worldly dream logic, they might dimly perceive that you're up to something spiritual, actually spiritual, like liberating your mind, liberating yourself. And they'll say, what are you doing? Or what do you do? What are you producing? On one level, it's an insult. And it would be like Neo's about to get into the car of those people that are going to actually take him somewhere to liberate him, liberate his mind from the Matrix. And imagine there's this grubby guy on the sidewalk saying, let's go smoke cigars. It's just, no, I'm done with that. Of course, once he's free, once he's truly realized who he is and been extricated from the Matrix and all that, and he's in that state of freedom, he can go back in there. And that grubby guy, like he was maybe an associate from his old neighborhood that was trying to draw him back into old unconscious activities. He might run into him and say like, hey, Fred, I'll take you up on that cigar. Because he's free. And now that's utterly different. And then Fred has a choice to make. Do I want to go with him or not? Because it's different. It's like, well, I like him, but I don't know. On some level, intuitively, we understand what the world is and we understand what freedom is. And we have to be honest with ourselves and discern the difference. If you study Vedanta or look at it, the book Crestral Discrimination by Shankara, the whole method really can be summed up in the guidance to discern. So Sanskrit is Viveka Chudamani. Viveka means discriminate, not judgment, but just tell the difference between one thing and the other. And Chudamani is crest jewel, meaning it's precious. It's the highest, pure light of wisdom. It's like a jewel cutting through illusions. It's discerning the real from the unreal, the true from the untrue, the worldly from the truth itself. And when you're talking about that stage, you're not a neophyte anymore. And one has the ability to make those discernments. So just make those discernments. I mean, there's videos and recordings that we make more for people who are interested in this and yet are somewhat new to it or may not have heard certain things. The basic guidance would be learn to discern between the true and the false, the real and the unreal, based on the teachings that you've been given, texts and living teachers and so on. And then if you're not sure what to do, listen to the one that's true. And if your answer is, I don't know which one is true, then it's like, I don't believe you. You wouldn't be at this point listening to these videos and recordings if you hadn't attained a certain measure of light, of conscious awareness. Use it. It's kind of like you have a flashlight. They have these relatively modern flashlights that use LEDs and rechargeable batteries, and they're very powerful and compact. And in a similar way, it's like we have all these videos and all these teachings, modern ways of, I mean, we have sacred source texts that used to be virtually impossible to find, or they weren't translated even 100 years ago. So we have all these texts that are available in teachers and teachings. It's like you have one of these fancy flashlights, and it's like, what do I do? One of the things that these newer flashlights can do is you just hold a button down and it steps up the power of the light incrementally, just with a touch of a button. So just maybe more light. There's a certain stage where it's like, enjoy the practice or the journey. If you've learned how to use your flashlight, fucking use it. It's almost as if this question presupposes that it's like, well, I'm not sure I want to use those higher powers on this light. It's like, okay, or the light is showing me this thing and should I trust it? It's like, I don't know what to say to that. Use what you've got. Like, I've lost my keys. Use your flashlight. Well, I haven't found them yet. How do you answer that? There's one answer. It's just get moving, use your light, discern between the real and the unreal to the degree that you can, and you know, I almost want to say, party down, dude.